Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to be bringing you my question and answer video. I asked you all about two and a half weeks ago on both the community tab on YouTube and on my Facebook page if you had any questions for me. And I have just been so amazed at the wonderful comments and questions that you all have sent my way. I've had so much fun reading through them. And I first just want to say a huge thank you for all of the encouraging words and just positive feedback on my channel and what you guys are learning and just that you're enjoying my videos. So I appreciate hearing that and knowing that because that keeps me going. I'm going to do this video in two parts because the questions that I asked, I just kind of gave you a broad invitation to ask me anything you want. And I received kind of personal questions. And so that's what this video is going to be focused on, kind of more the personal side of my life. I will be talking a little bit about makeup and hair, but those questions will be focused on me personally and my makeup journey and my hair journey, that kind of thing. And then the second part of this Q&A video, I am going to do a video answering some specific questions that you gave me about makeup and hair. And those questions are going to be questions that I feel like I can quickly address within a couple sentences or so. Now, many of you have asked me questions that I feel like warrant a whole dedicated video all on its own. So for example, many of you have been asking for a what I eat in a day and what my fitness routine is. And so I am going to be doing a video all about that. So any of those questions that you have asked me that I don't answer in this video or the next, check the description box below. And if I've done a video in the past on it, or I do a video on it in the future, I will link it down below. So if you're seeing this video long after the date that I post it, check the description box and see what other videos I've done in answer to your questions. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get started answering some of your questions. So diving right in, the first question, do I have any siblings? Yes, I have two brothers, one older, one younger. My older brother lives in Georgia, my younger one in Colorado. Growing up, we were like all siblings. We fought and fought until we became high schoolers and beyond, and then we became good friends, and we are still good friends and keep in touch. We try to see each other as much as possible, but living in 3 different states has made it a little hard to do very often. But I love them dearly, and as my husband says, they were good training for being married to a man. So my husband says that it really helped that I grew up with brothers, and I think he's right, because I understood boys and just how boys think and what boys do. So my husband and I have been married for 18 and a half years. I can't believe that. We met in Colorado through a mutual friend, and that friend I worked with, and he had known my husband. My husband's name is Guy. He had known Guy since high school, and we would talk about, he would tell each of us about the other, but he never got us together to actually meet. So we met on our own in a church outside of Boulder, and my husband, Guy, had seen pictures of me, and so when he looked across the church, he was like, oh, I think that's the girl that our mutual friend had been telling each of us about. So he introduced himself. That was in January, and we had our first date in February, engaged in June, and we got married in September. So many of you probably think that is really crazy and fast, but he was 35, I was 25, and we had both done our fair share of dating, and we knew what we were looking for and knew when we had found it. So after my husband and I had only been married 1.5 years, we moved to Southern California. He became the senior pastor of a small church here. Now in Denver, when I married him, he was a stockbroker for Charles Schwab. But I knew he had this calling. He had already been to seminary, so I kind of knew this was a future at some point. So we moved to Southern California, took over this tiny little church, and it has remained small, and we're okay with that. We average probably around 80 people on a Sunday. We are a predominantly senior church. Our average age has come down a little bit since we came to this church 17 years ago, but it has still been mostly focused on seniors. So we have a few that are early retirees, so in their 50s and 60s. We call them our youth group. We have always had maybe 1 or 2 young families in our church throughout the course of time with kids, and they have loved it. They have loved having their kids in the service with them, and just loved having a group of lots of grandpas and grandmas for their kids to grow up around. So we are a much more traditional style music church, and so I am officially the music director of our church, and I play the piano there. We've started a worship team, and we still sing right out of the hymnal. It's wonderful. Now, the next question that everybody asks, do we have children? No, we do not. It is not for lack of trying or wanting. Always wanted to have kids, but that was not God's plan for us. However, He has, through my piano teaching, so I taught piano for 7 years out here. Also through my husband's football coaching, he has done that as a part-time thing at 3 of the area high schools. Through those avenues, as well as through the young families that have come to our church, the Lord has really brought young kids our way for us to mentor. Some just for a short time, and some that we're still in contact with today. We even have some current kids that we are their second parents, and we just love having them. Now, we do also have fur babies, now plural. The one dog that you have seen before on here is Bojo. I'll pop in a picture of him. He's 13 years old. And then just this last year, through very long story and lots of situational things that happened, we ended up adopting a second dog. She is a German Shepherd. I'll pop in a picture here. She is the church dog. So she is quite a different dog than our home dog, but we were kind of tasked with taking her in and providing a home for her, and we've done that as well. So the next question is, do I have any hobbies? Yes, I have too many, in fact. I've done scrapbooking, card making, jewelry making, which turned into a business and then out of a business. And now several of you have been asking, am I still making jewelry? And if so, am I going to sell it again? And the answer to that is I'm starting to make jewelry again, and I hope to be able to sell it again. So if I do, I will definitely let you all know. I also enjoy sewing, crocheting. We have a blanket making group from our church that we've made now over 2,000 blankets in about 10 years. And so, like I said, too many hobbies, right? Favorite vacation. So I think it would be hard not to say honeymoon, right? So we did go to Hawaii on our honeymoon. That's the only time I've ever been, and really enjoyed it. Went to Kauai, and then we also spent one night, 2 days in Oahu. So that was wonderful. But I would say 2 others that really come to mind. One, when I was single, went to New York City, and that is a place I want to go back to. Not a place I would ever want to live, but it was just an amazing trip, and it was kind of like how to see New York in 3 days. And it was back before the Twin Towers went down. So I really enjoyed just seeing so many landmarks, seeing shows on Broadway, all of that. But my other favorite vacation would be Durango. So Durango has become a favorite spot of my husband and I, is to drive to. We've gone there in the winter and the summertime and love it at both seasons. I've had the question, what was your hardest job? I have had so many different jobs. If you saw my first Q&A video that I did a couple years ago, I listed many there. I would say there's been 2 jobs that I can think of that were the hardest and yet the most rewarding. So the first one would be the job that I was at for 5 years out of high school. I worked for a Christian ministry called Promise Keepers, and they did stadium events back then. It was when they were just exploding with growth, and the joke was that we were like a limousine going 100 miles an hour trying to change a flat tire. That's how it felt all the time. There just weren't enough people to do the work that needed to be done. So there were lots of long days and weekends and I mean just strenuous work, mentally fatiguing work, all of that, but yet it was also very rewarding and some of my best memories met some of my longtime friends there. So hardest, but yet one of the most rewarding jobs. And then possibly I would also say just being in ministry here as a pastor's wife, I would say that there are lots of wonderful things about being in ministry, but there are also really hard things about being in ministry. One is you are dealing with a lot of people who are having a really hard time, whether familial or physical or whatever, lots of death and dying. But on the other hand, it is also just a wonderful, rewarding time as well. And we've had our fair share of people being hurtful and just saying mean things, doing mean things, but all in all, it's also just been a rewarding experience as well. Favorite YouTubers, do I have any? Oh my goodness, my list is long. So I'm gonna kind of narrow it down for you. So I'm gonna give you a couple in different categories that are my current favorites. The Diva Den. She is a wonderful lady that I have met here through YouTube, and I enjoy her channel so much. She does a lot of just really creative decorating and has just some amazing ideas of how to remake something you get at the dollar store. She does a great job. She's a sweetheart, so definitely recommend. And all of these channels that I talk about, I'll link down below. The second one would be Pride in Photos Beauty. Lori and I did a collab around Christmas. I enjoy her videos so much, and I know you would too. Then a couple others, Lip Gloss Leslie. I don't know if any of you watch her. She is a sweetheart, and I just have to say she does the most amazing swatches I have ever seen of anybody. So whenever she's reviewing an eyeshadow palette or lipsticks or whatever, she just does an amazing job. She is so cute and fun to watch. And then I have Vassar Beauty. She's a big time channel, but my main thing I love to watch from her is her organizational ideas. She is just so creative. I love organization, and so I really enjoy watching her videos. Now, a couple of YouTubers that I actually did YouTube tributes to, and I'll link those videos down below. So you might already know these three, but Emily Noel, Candy Johnson, and Makeup Geek. And I did kind of tribute videos to them because they were three that were so inspirational to me years ago and have kind of helped me learn so much along the way about my own makeup application. And I still really enjoy watching Emily Noel, her reviews and everything, and I'm sure many of you watch her as well. And then two of the most helpful makeup artists, true makeup artists, like they've been to school, they are world renowned. One is Lisa Eldridge. I've mentioned her before, but she is amazing, and I have learned so much from her. And then Shona Scott is another one that's also in the UK. She is also an amazing makeup artist and just has some really good, even just simple videos about how to do certain things too. So those two would be probably some of my top favorite actual makeup artists that I have learned just tons from. And now that brings us to all these questions about makeup and hair. So again, I'm going to keep this kind of personal as far as my personal experience. So with both makeup and hair, I have no formal training. I did not go to school for either one. I like to think that I started learning about makeup and hair when I was probably 6 or 7. I remember having a doll that had like hair that you could fix and curl and all of that. And then I remember going over to my grandma's house, and I would beg and plead to have her let me fix her hair and do her makeup. And my aunt would also let me do it too. And I just thought it was so fun. So way back then, I was already doing hair and makeup on other people, and I just thought it was so much fun. I didn't get to wear much makeup myself. It wasn't allowed in school, where I went to school, until high school. So in junior high, my mom did let me wear some makeup through the summer. That was like mascara and lip gloss probably. So it wasn't until high school that I actually got to wear makeup. But I always enjoyed doing my own hair, and I would do just all different things with it. So many of you have asked, have I ever had long hair? You'll want to see pictures of my hair. So I will pop in here some pictures kind of throughout more my, I think, later teens, early adult years. I'll save you the early pictures. Oh my goodness. I have some really embarrassing photos on my blog of my hairdos throughout the years. But when I decided to cut my hair to kind of a pixie style, how did that come about? Several of you have been asking. Well, truthfully, I was scared to death. I found this picture. I'll pop it in. I found it on Pinterest not too long ago, and I'm like, oh my word, that was the picture I saw in a hair magazine. And I thought, oh, that would be so dramatic, but I could never do that. And then I showed it to my best friend. She's like, oh, you got to do it. And at the time I was in Colorado with her, and my cousin was a hairstylist at the time, and she was the only one I would trust with dramatic haircuts. So my best friend said, I'll do it if you will. And I said, okay. And so we went, and my cousin cut both of our hair into kind of a longer pixie cut. It was kind of the style similar to what Meg Ryan had in You've Got Mail. That was kind of also what we had in the back of our mind. Well, my best friend has since grown out her hair and never gone back short. But for me, I really enjoyed the ease of styling, and because it's so hot here in the summertime that I grew tired of having my hair up in a ponytail all the time. So that was kind of what pushed me into it. And then what's kept me there is just throughout the course of time, I did finally find a couple of hairstylists. The first one, he kept me in a much longer style of this do. And, you know, we always had some fun with it. And then moved on to my current stylist, and she and I together have been kind of the brainchilds behind all the different styles that I have had. So I'll go in and I'll say, oh, I kind of am not liking this. What can we do different? And she'll suggest something, and then we'll do it. And if I love it, you know, we'll keep it. So that's kind of how this style came about. That's how it's kind of morphed from one to the next. And currently this is where we are. So kind of a longer pixie style. Many of you have said you've been on the fence and you want to take the plunge, but you're afraid to do it. If you're struggling to take the leap, get a friend who is willing to do it with you. Take the plunge together. That's always helpful. If you don't have a friend who's willing to take the plunge, just go for it. It's such a fun hairstyle to have. Have I ever thought about starting my own makeup brand or creating my own makeup palette? Honestly, I've never really thought about starting my own makeup brand. I have thought about creating my own palette and what fun that would be. And actually, I'm going to do a video on it, because while I have not created my own palette, no, let's not get ahead of ourselves, there is a way to, with all of the individual single shadows that are out there, there is a way for me to actually show you what my palette would look like. So I'm going to do that and do a separate video on that, so stay tuned. Aging gracefully. What are my thoughts on that? Botox, fillers, letting your hair go gray. You know, I would say I basically have no rules, and I haven't said, no, I will absolutely not do X. But for me personally, I have seen, because of the age of our congregation, I have seen both sides of the coin. I have seen the women that grow old gracefully. And by that, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to just throw in the towel and give up and stop doing your hair and stop doing makeup just because you've got wrinkles or your hair has gone gray. I think that you can still have fun with your makeup. I think you can still have fun with your hair and embrace the aging process, because let's face it, that's part of life. I just think that if there is something that is particularly bothersome to you, that really makes you self-conscious, then make a change in that area. So if you say, oh, I really don't like the color of my gray hair, because I know there are various shades of gray, and I don't know what color my gray is going to be. I've already got gray hair right here. But for now, I'm just using that as some nice additional highlights. Who knows what will happen down the road. But if gray hair bothers you, color it. I'm all for it. But if you have that beautiful white hair, don't think that you have to color it just because it's gray. As far as wrinkles, all of that, I mean, yes, there are things that we can do to improve that, and I'm all for it. I'm kind of experimenting with some collagen supplements and different things like that. And so I think that there's a healthy balance that we can find there. But again, I just want to encourage you to do things that help add a little pep in your step, but don't think that you need to look 20 to be accepted. And I think sometimes that's what I see that makes me sad, is when people do these things just because they think that people won't like them if they look like they're older, or if they don't look 20, then they're not beautiful. You are beautiful. So I just want to kind of encourage you that way. It is okay to age gracefully. It is okay to have wrinkles. It's okay to have gray hair. Who cares? Just embrace the beauty that you are today. And it's hard for us. We all look back. I look back and be like, oh, wow, I didn't used to have those forehead wrinkles or whatever. We all look back on those pictures and say, wow, we looked so young. But you know, we've lived a lot of life since then. So embrace who you are today and find peace and contentment where you are today. Okay, so the last major category is music. And I touched on this briefly as far as my job in the church, but I've been playing the piano since I was 5.5. I remember starting lessons in the back of some music store, and took from several teachers for about 9 years until I was a sophomore in high school. And then I stopped taking lessons, and I've not taken lessons since. But what kept me going is I continued playing in competitions through high school. After high school, I had planned to go to college for music, and I did not end up going. So I have no college training in music either, but I continued playing. Then when we moved out here, and after about a year of being out here, I became the sole musician of the church. Talk about a good way to really increase your skills quickly, and that is when you are forced to play for church every Sunday. So when I first moved out here, I could not sight read. I couldn't play with chords. It would take me weeks to learn a new song for offertory, and throughout these 17 years, I'm happy to say that that has become much easier. So I have continued to learn and grow on my own. Several years ago, I was asked to play for community choir. I did that for a number of years, and they had 3 concerts twice a year. And so several of you asked how many hours a day or week I practice. And it just depends on what I'm practicing for. So when I was playing for this choir, I was literally practicing 2, maybe 3 hours a day, at least 6 days a week. Currently, I am not playing for that choir now, and so my practice time is mostly for church-related things. Right now, I would say I practice probably an hour and a half or so a day, 5 to 6 days a week. Sometimes I just sit down and play just because I enjoy it. So along with that, several people asked what my favorite style to play is. And I grew up learning classical music and sacred. So I always seem to take from a teacher who was also involved in the church in some way. So I learned a lot of sacred music along with classical styling, but I never really played anything super fun until I stopped taking lessons and kind of branched out on my own. So now I do play pop music. I love to play jazz music, but I still find it very challenging. But along with my recordings of CDs, some of you have ordered those and listened to them, and you'll know some of the styling in the background has more of that jazz style, and I do really enjoy that style of music. Now, just quickly, several of you asked, how do you purchase one of my CDs? I will leave in the description box down below, and then I'll also annotate here on the screen my email address. Send me an email with your contact information. I'll send you a link through PayPal for that. They're $15 each and then $5 shipping and handling, but that $5 charge is just a one-time fee. So if you buy 3 CDs, it's just one $5 shipping fee. If I do another CD, I will be doing digital downloads as well, but I did not license these last 2 CDs as digital downloads. So I only licensed them for CDs, but my next CD, if I do another one, I will also be doing digital download licensing as well. All right, so all of that being said, now the final thing is to play you something, right? Well, with all of my various styles of music that I enjoy playing, and I mean my cabinet full of music, I was trying to figure out what on earth to play for you guys. So I picked 2 songs, and hopefully the sound will come through okay, but I'm not using any special recording instrument because I'm recording here at home from my keyboard that I use here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to jump into that, and that will wrap up this video. Make sure you check back for part 2, which is the details about makeup and hair. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy this music.